Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up as we embark on a whirlwind journey through 5,000 years of Chinese history. It's a tale of mighty rivers, powerful emperors, warlords with questionable manners, and an eternal quest to keep things from falling apart, kind of like my last family reunion. Our story begins in ancient China, where everything revolved around two great rivers, the Yangtze in the south and the Yellow River in the north. These rivers were the lifeblood of early civilizations, providing water for crops and occasionally a catastrophic flood or two. Picture the Neolithic folks trying to farm peacefully when, surprise, a wall of water shows up uninvited. But don't worry, they weren't just surviving, they were thriving. The Lunshan people were ahead of their time, making silk and crafting pottery so delicate it would make your grandma's china look like a second-grade art project. Yet their biggest challenge was keeping their feet dry. Floods were as common as TikTok trends, and thousands of people would be swept away by these temperamental rivers. Enter the semi-mythical Zhou Dynasty, the ancient heroes who finally figured out how to control the floods. They were like the original civil engineers, using sophisticated irrigation techniques to protect their cities. This ingenuity didn't just save lives, it allowed the first emperors to emerge, ruling over multiple peoples with something called the Mandate of Heaven. Imagine trying to keep everyone fed and happy while convincing them that you're divinely chosen to leave no pressure. Next up, we have the Shang Dynasty, who took over from Zhou. These guys were the original tough guys, bringing China into the Bronze Age with a bang. They were so warlike that they practically invented cruelty, incorporating slaves into their armies like it was the latest fashion trend. They were also the first to use writing extensively, which is how we know just how much they enjoyed being the bad boys of ancient China. But even the Shang couldn't last forever. They were eventually overthrown by the Zhou Dynasty, who were aided by defecting slaves, because nothing says down with the oppressors like joining forces with the next oppressor. The Zhou Dynasty was all about balance and harmony, at least when they weren't busy fighting each other. This period saw the birth of Taoism, which preached humility and piety, and Confucianism, which emphasized rational living. Essentially, if you wanted to be happy, you needed to either go with the flow or meticulously plan your life, a choice as confusing as deciding between coffee or tea in the morning. The Zhou rulers also introduced a complex feudal system, with 70 quasi-independent states paying homage to a single emperor. Over time, these states got a little too independent, and the Zhou Empire started to resemble a reality TV show, constant drama, alliances, betrayals, and enough warfare to fill several seasons. And leading this charge was Huang, a man who decided that enough was enough. He united China under one rule and crowned himself the first emperor of a unified China. His approach to unity? Burn the books and bury the scholars, because if you can't erase history, just erase the historians. But Huang wasn't just about censorship, he also ordered the construction of large portions of the Great Wall to keep out the neighbors and connected the north and south of China with a massive canal. His tomb, guarded by the famous terracotta army, shows that when you're an emperor, you don't go to the afterlife alone. Unfortunately, Huang's dynasty didn't last long. After his death, the empire descended into revolt and chaos, proving once again that ruling China was like trying to herd cats, except the cats were armed and very, very grumpy. With warlords, barbarians, and rival dynasties all vying for control, the Jin dynasty managed to reunite China briefly, but their reigns were often marked by violence and disorganization. Picture medieval Europe, but with more rice paddies and fewer knights. Eventually, the northern and southern dynasties emerged as the main rivals, dominating a period filled with warlords and barbarian incursions, making life about as pleasant as a visit to the DMV. But just when things seemed like they couldn't get any worse, along came the Sui dynasty. They managed to reunite the northern and southern dynasties and reinstalled the rule of ethnic Han Chinese. The Sui began the process of integrating the barbarians who had migrated into China during the centuries of chaos. Though short-lived, the Sui dynasty was pivotal nonetheless. The Sui were succeeded by the Tang dynasty, often considered the zenith of Chinese civilization. This was China's second golden age, marked by internal stability, scientific advancements, and cultural refinement. Chinese culture spread throughout Asia during this period, thanks to merchants, artisans, and philosophers who were welcomed into the courts and halls of study. It was like the ultimate cultural exchange program. But as they say, all good things must come to an end. The Tang began persecuting Buddhists and became increasingly authoritarian. After putting down several rebellions, they were eventually deposed, and China once again entered a period of chaos. Next came a period of disunity and chaos, with warlords, barbarians, and rival dynasties all vying for control. The Jin dynasty managed to reunite China briefly, but their reigns were often marked by violence and disorganization. The empire once again devolved into local rule, with 16 kingdoms fighting it out in what's often considered a dark age. Picture medieval Europe, but with more rice paddies and fewer knights. Two dynasties, the northern and southern, emerged as the main rivals during this time. It was a period dominated by warlords and barbarian incursions, making life about as pleasant as a visit to the DMV. But just when things seemed like they couldn't get any worse, along came the Zhou dynasty. They managed to reunite the northern and southern dynasties and reinstalled the rule of ethnic Han Chinese. The Zhou began the process of integrating the barbarians who had migrated into China during the centuries of chaos. Though short-lived, the Zhou dynasty was pivotal nonetheless. The Zhou were succeeded by the Tang dynasty, often considered the zenith of Chinese civilization. This was China's second golden age, marked by internal stability, scientific advancements, and cultural refinement. Chinese culture spread throughout Asia during this period, thanks to merchants, artisans, and philosophers who were welcomed into the courts and halls of study. It was like the ultimate cultural exchange program. But as they say, all good things must come to an end. The Tang began persecuting Buddhists and became increasingly authoritarian. After putting down several rebellions, they were eventually deposed, and China once again entered a period of chaos. Are you noticing a pattern here? Out of this chaos rose the Shang dynasty, which is best known for its technological achievements. The Shang invented the magnetic compass, gunpowder, and mass printing. They even created the world's first national paper currency. Talk about innovation. This age of enlightenment was brought to a swift end, however, when the Mongols invaded. Genghis Khan's grandson, Kublai Khan, established the Yuan dynasty after the Mongol invasion. For the first time, the entire Silk Road was controlled by one power, leading to a period of cultural and material exchange between China and the rest of the world. The Yuan dynasty was marked by diversity and prosperity, but it was also short-lived, eventually supplanted by the Ming dynasty. The Ming dynasty is often seen as a prosperous time and a high point for art and literature. They are perhaps best known for their construction of the Forbidden City and the reinforcement of the Great Wall. The Ming emperors were like the ultimate patrons of the arts, commissioning countless works of literature and art. However, this period of prosperity couldn't last forever. The last dynasty of China, the Qing, began with a golden age and ended in disaster. The British, obsessed with tea but not with paying for it, decided to illegally flood China with opium. When the Qing clamped down on the opium trade, the British went to war to keep the drugs flowing. The resulting conflicts, combined with internal strife, led to the decline of the Qing dynasty. By 1911, the last emperor of China was removed from the throne in a deal that his advisors didn't bother to tell him about. Imperial China was succeeded by the Republic of China, and then eventually the People's Republic of China. And there you have it, the entire story of China in just 10 minutes. From the Neolithic farmers battling floods to the great emperors who built walls and unified empires, to the philosophers who shaped Chinese thought, and the dynasties that rose and fell like waves on the Yellow River, China's history is a saga of resilience, innovation, and, let's be honest, a fair bit of chaos. But through it all, China has remained one of the most enduring civilizations in human history. So the next time you sip your tea, think of the countless generations that came before, shaping a history as rich and complex as the flavors in your cup. And maybe, just maybe, appreciate that you don't have to worry about marauding Mongols or oppressive warlords, just the occasional spam email. Thank you, and remember, if history has taught us anything, it's that nothing lasts forever, except maybe the Great Wall.